Good evening. Has anybody been to Tender Greens? Awesome. So people ask me all the time, how did you come up with the idea and why? And the truth is, you know, when I was the chef at Shutters on the Beach, I was cooking food that I could not afford. And LA was a much different place back then. This is 2002. There wasn't much between luxury and fast food. So one night, while I was waiting for my wife to get ready for dinner, and that can take some time, I sat down with a piece of paper and a pen and started to write. And what I wrote that night was what became the Tender Greens menu. And the menu was really meant to be the kind of food that a chef would cook if he had the time to go to the farmer's market and prepare it with some care for some friends he really cared about. And then I went on to write a little 2-page overview, which would become the DNA of Tender Greens. And what that looked like was a company that was scalable so that we could bring real food, good food, whole food to as many people as possible. We could also create growth opportunities for all of the people who worked for us, including ourselves. And we would carve out a space for creative expression so that all of the chefs that we brought on would never become bored as I had at Shutters on the Beach. And then, if we could, we wanted to show up as a good neighbor and do meaningful things for the neighborhood. And then we went about raising money. 3 years after that night, we opened Tender Greens in Culver City. Long lines, we had great reviews. We had to close early the first night because we ran out of food. And really, our purpose back then, our sole focus was just survival. Survival day to day, and just figuring it out and growing the business. And it took about 3 years to really, truly stabilize and feel as though we were through the woods and we were going to make it. And in 2009, I started to think about how we could show up in a more meaningful way as a neighbor, using food as an agent for change. What was it in the world that really bothered us? And homelessness was something that, since moving from a small college town in Pennsylvania to Philadelphia, really troubled me. And I started to get involved with homeless youth in Venice, and in listening to their stories, one after another, it became clear that they were all coming out of the foster care system. And it was a broken system, or at least a system that was overrun and stressed, that maybe we needed to focus on. So we started the Sustainable Life Project, which is a 6-month culinary arts program for at-risk youth with a mission to provide jobs, mentorship, good food, a sense of family, and a path forward that otherwise was not available to these kids. And I want to share with you 2 stories. One that is perhaps a little depressing because this is tough work. And then one that is really, I think, exciting and a marker of why this is important. Taking you back to Culver City in 2006, our first restaurant, I walked in one morning and there was this young girl setting up the patio. She had jet black hair, kind of looked like Sid Vicious. She had tribal piercings in her ears and her nose. And what was really striking was she had this tattoo in bold print on the back of her neck that said, "Fuck it." She was amazing. She was smart. She was a quick learn, and she ran circles around everybody else. And over time, she was able to work every position in the restaurant. But she also held this dark secret. She had left home at 12 because of abuse. And by 14, she had an addiction to heroin. And it was that addiction that caused her to flow in and out of the Tender Greens family over the next 10 years. And we thought we lost her. She had vanished. And then one day, about a year and a half ago, I got a phone call from my chef down in San Diego, Pete Balistreri. "Erik, Nadia just showed up at the door in downtown San Diego. She just got out of prison. She just went through medical detox. She needs us to post bail, and she wants to come back to LA to get into rehab." And that was a standing offer for many years, and finally it seemed like she was serious. So Pete put her on the train, and I drove downtown, and I picked her up, got her situated that weekend, and Monday morning, our team took her to rehab, where she would start her recovery for the next 6 months. And when she got out, Kevin, who was running our Sustainable Life Project, met her and got her settled into Marina Del Rey, part-time at first, so that she wasn't overwhelmed. And then as she quickly picked it up, she went to full-time. And for a while, we thought we finally had won. But unfortunately, as she became settled, she became bored with her life. She wanted to go out and party again. And we started hearing the stories of pot and beer and what have you, and she met the wrong guy. And she started to come in late. And then she started to call in sick. And eventually, again, the no-shows started until we had to separate. And unfortunately, I haven't heard from Nadia since. I don't know if we lost her, but it's in those moments that sometimes one thinks, much like her tattoo, "Fuck it. Why am I doing this? I've got so many other things to do. Why am I spending so much energy on this one person who doesn't seem to appreciate it?" And then there are those others who really take advantage of the door that is open. And it makes me think of a kid by the name of Josh, who came to us after his mother had died. He had been in and out of homelessness for much of his life, limited education, no money, no family, really no options. And he showed up the first day for our Sustainable Life Project, awkward, shy, really no self-esteem, but he did have this eagerness to please. He wanted to be successful. And every day he came in early, he left late, and if I was walking down the hallway, he would rush to the door to make sure he opened it before I did. He would grab the bag so that I didn't have to carry it. He was on my heels all the time. I became his uncle in many ways. And over the years, Josh has lost weight. He's now living independently. And he's moved up the ranks. And 2 weeks ago, if you had followed Josh on Instagram, you would have seen a young man in front of Southwest Airlines taking a selfie. Hashtag terrified. Hashtag first time ever on a plane. But he got on, and an hour later, there was another selfie in front of Oakland International Airport. Hashtag made it. On to Bart to open our newest restaurant in Berkeley, where he was there to help train the new crew. stopped for another couple selfies with the chefs and some food, hashtag chef's life. And then last night I was at an event. I was the guest, but we were catering. And after the delicious food that the team put together, our crew was pulled out to answer some questions from the diners. And it was some of our best chefs in the company. And amongst them was Josh. For me, I get choked up a little bit because I saw where he came from and I see where he is today. And he's no longer a statistic. He's no longer a foster youth. He's a chef. He's a young man who has a future. And he's the reason that we do this. He's the reason that our program continues to strive to make a difference in kids' lives who otherwise really don't have much of a chance. And it brings great pride and purpose, not just to my life, but now to everybody who is part of the Tender Greens family. And it has become a great recruiting tool and retention tool because everybody wants to be connected to something bigger than them. So I ask you, what is it that you want to change in the world? And if you can't think of anything, then I invite you to give foster youth a chance, hire a kid, mentor him, or if you like, we'll partner with you on starting your own program. Thank you.